My beloved child. Pause here for a moment, because what you are about to hear was not placed before you by accident. Something has been spoken behind closed doors. Something your heart has sensed without being able to name. And now, at the exact moment when you were beginning to question whether anything was truly changing, heaven is pulling back the curtain. Do not rush away from this message. Your soulmate's family has revealed a secret. Not a small secret. Not a passing opinion. Not a careless sentence spoken and forgotten. This was something they had carried quietly for longer than anyone realized. It was hidden beneath polite smiles, unfinished conversations, and moments when the room suddenly became silent after your name was mentioned. Your soulmate noticed those moments. They felt the weight of them. But even they did not fully understand what their family had been keeping inside. Until now. Something happened recently that changed the atmosphere in their home. A conversation began unexpectedly. No one planned it. No one prepared for it. Yet once the first words were spoken, the truth could no longer remain buried. And child, what was revealed was connected to you. For some time, you have wondered why this connection has felt so intense and yet so complicated. You have questioned why moments of closeness were sometimes followed by distance. You have asked why your soulmate could seem certain of you one day, then guarded the next. You may have assumed they were confused about their feelings. You may have believed they were afraid of commitment. You may even have wondered whether someone else had influenced their heart. But there was another influence surrounding them, one you could not see. Their family. Your soulmate has always cared deeply about the people closest to them. Even when they pretend not to be affected by the opinions of others, they carry those opinions inside. They may resist advice openly, yet replay every word when they are alone. They may defend their choices with confidence, yet still feel the weight of family expectations pressing against their chest. And when it came to you, their family had feelings they were not expressing. At first, your soulmate believed their silence meant uncertainty. They thought perhaps their family simply needed time to understand the connection. But beneath that silence, something much deeper was unfolding. They were watching. They watched how your soulmate changed whenever your name appeared on their phone. They noticed how their voice softened when speaking about you. They saw the way they became restless after disagreements and unusually peaceful after moments of understanding. They noticed details your soulmate believed no one could see. A mother noticed the sudden glow in their eyes. A father noticed the seriousness in their tone. A sibling noticed how often your soulmate returned to the same stories about you, even when they pretended they were no longer thinking about the connection. The family began to understand that this was not temporary. You were not just another person passing through your soulmate's life. You had reached a place inside them that others had never touched. And that realization frightened some of them. Not because you had done something wrong. Not because they disliked you. But because they knew the power you held in your soulmate's heart. There is a fear that sometimes rises inside families when someone they love begins to form a bond strong enough to change the direction of their life. It is not always spoken. It may not even be understood by the people feeling it. They worry about losing closeness. They fear becoming less important. They wonder whether traditions will change, whether old routines will disappear, whether the person they have always known will become someone new. Your soulmate's family felt this shift before your soulmate was ready to admit it. They saw that you were awakening something. They saw their loved one becoming more honest, more emotional, and more willing to question the life they had accepted. Your presence did not merely bring romance into your soulmate's world. It brought transformation. And transformation makes hidden emotions rise. There were conversations about you that your soulmate never heard. Quiet questions exchanged late at night. Concerned glances across the room. One person defended you while another asked whether your soulmate was moving too quickly. Someone insisted that this connection was different. Someone else remained silent because they already knew the truth but was afraid to speak it. The secret was growing between them. And with every passing day, it became harder to hide. Your soulmate began to notice the tension. Whenever they spoke about you, certain family members reacted too quickly. One would change the subject. Another would ask a question that seemed innocent but carried a deeper meaning. Someone may have said, "Are you sure you know this person as well as you think?" Yet beneath the question was not suspicion of you. It was fear of what your soulmate was becoming. Because, child, your soulmate was beginning to choose with their own heart. For years, they may have made decisions based on what kept the peace. They avoided disappointing others. They carried responsibilities that were never fully theirs. They learned to silence personal desires in order to remain dependable. They became the one who adjusted, the one who compromised, the one who stayed quiet. Then you entered their emotional world. And without demanding anything, you reminded them of who they were before they learned to abandon their own needs. That is why this connection felt dangerous to the old patterns surrounding them. Your soulmate's family saw that you made them question what they truly wanted. They saw that after speaking with you, your soulmate became less willing to accept empty routines. They became more aware of their loneliness. They began imagining a different future. A life built not only around obligation, but around love, peace, truth, and emotional freedom. This frightened those who were comfortable with the old version of them. But not everyone in the family was afraid. One person had been quietly hoping for this transformation. This person had watched your soulmate carry too much for too long. They saw the loneliness behind their strength. They knew how often your soulmate smiled while feeling unseen. They understood that beneath the calm surface was a heart waiting for someone who would not merely admire them, but truly understand them. And this family member believed that person was you. They did not say it at first. They waited. They wanted to be certain. They watched how your soulmate spoke about you during the good moments and the difficult ones. They noticed that even when your soulmate felt hurt, they never spoke of you with true hatred. There was frustration, fear, confusion, and pride, but beneath it all remained love. A love your soulmate could not erase. A love that kept returning even after silence. A love that followed them into ordinary moments and appeared without warning. They could be sitting at the table, surrounded by conversation, and suddenly become distant because something reminded them of you. They could hear a song, pass a familiar place, or notice a small detail that carried your memory. Their family saw these changes. They saw the way your absence occupied the room. And the one who had been quietly observing finally understood something extraordinary. Your soulmate was not trying to forget you. They were trying to understand how to become brave enough to choose you. That was the beginning of the revelation. The family conversation started after your soulmate left the room. Perhaps they had mentioned you casually. Perhaps they had tried to act as though everything was normal. But someone noticed the tremor in their voice. Someone noticed that your soulmate was pretending not to care. And once your soulmate walked away, one family member said, "They still love this person." The room became still. No one laughed. No one denied it. Because everyone knew. For a moment, there was only silence, the kind of silence that comes when a truth has been waiting too long to be spoken. Then another person answered, "It is more than that." Those words changed everything. They began talking honestly for the first time. One admitted they had underestimated the connection. Another confessed they had judged too quickly. Someone revealed that they had been worried because they saw how deeply your soulmate could be hurt. Another said they were afraid your soulmate would leave behind the life the family had imagined for them. But then the oldest fear was finally named. They were afraid your soulmate would choose you even if the family did not approve. Child, feel the meaning of that. They knew your soulmate's heart had already moved closer to you than anyone had realized. They knew that if a final decision had to be made, your soulmate might follow the love they feel rather than the expectations placed upon them. That is why the secret remained hidden. The family had never been uncertain about whether your soulmate cared for you. They were uncertain about how much power that love would have. And now they know. Your soulmate's feelings are not fading. They are becoming clearer. Even in distance, the connection has continued to shape them. Even in silence, your presence has remained active in their heart. Every attempt to move forward without resolving the truth has brought them back to the same emotional doorway. You. But the conversation did not stop there. One family member revealed something no one expected. They had spoken to your soulmate privately some time ago. In that conversation, your soulmate had confessed more than they ever told you. They admitted that you made them feel seen in a way that was both beautiful and terrifying. They confessed that when they imagined the future, your face appeared naturally. They said they had tried to convince themselves that the connection was too complicated, but every attempt to detach left them feeling emptier. They admitted they had compared others to you. They admitted no one reached them in the same way. They admitted that the thought of losing you permanently felt heavier than the fear of changing their life. The family member had carried this confession alone. Until now. When they finally repeated your soulmate's words, the entire atmosphere shifted. Someone who had once resisted the connection lowered their eyes. Someone who had questioned your intentions became quiet. Someone who had encouraged your soulmate to move on suddenly realized that moving on was not as simple as they had believed. Because this was no longer about an attraction. It was about a bond that had become woven into your soulmate's identity. And child, there is another layer you must understand. Your soulmate's family also knew something about you. They knew you had been misunderstood. Information had reached them in fragments. Stories had been repeated without full context. Certain moments had been described from only one side. Your silence was interpreted as indifference. Your boundaries were mistaken for pride. Your emotional caution was seen as distance. But recently, someone discovered the fuller truth. They learned about something you had endured quietly. They learned that your heart had not been cold, you had been protecting wounds no one could see. They learned that your hesitation was not rejection, it was fear of being hurt in the same place again. They learned that while others assumed you were moving on easily, you had been carrying emotions with dignity, refusing to chase, manipulate, or force what needed to come freely. This discovery changed how they saw you. The family member who once doubted you began asking different questions. Instead of wondering whether you truly cared, they began wondering how much you had suffered without revealing it. They began to recognize your strength. They saw that you did not enter this connection to create chaos. You entered it carrying a sincere heart. You may not have expressed everything perfectly. Neither did your soulmate. Both of you reacted from old wounds at times. Both of you misunderstood silence. Both of you protected yourselves when honesty felt too vulnerable. But the intention beneath your heart was never what some of them feared. And that truth has now surfaced. Your soulmate has not yet told you about this conversation. Part of them is still trying to understand what it means. They can feel that something has shifted in their family, but they do not yet know the full extent of what was said. They have noticed softer expressions when your name is mentioned. They have sensed that someone who was once guarded has become curious. They have heard questions that no longer sound suspicious, but almost hopeful. This change is unsettling them. They had prepared themselves to defend you. They had rehearsed arguments in their mind. They expected resistance. But now, the very people they feared would stand against the connection are beginning to see what your soulmate saw all along. And that is forcing your soulmate to confront a truth they can no longer avoid. For a long time, they used family uncertainty as one reason to delay. Perhaps not openly. Perhaps they never said it aloud. But inside, they told themselves the timing was wrong, the circumstances were complicated, or too many people would be affected. Now one of those walls is beginning to fall. And when an outer obstacle disappears, the heart can no longer hide behind it. Your soulmate must now face their own fear. They must decide whether they are willing to become emotionally honest. They must decide whether they will continue watching this connection from a distance or step toward the future that keeps calling them. They must decide whether love will remain a private feeling or become a courageous choice. Heaven has been working through the silence. What felt like delay was exposing every hidden layer surrounding this bond. Had everything moved quickly, the fears would have followed you both into the future. The family's unspoken concerns would have remained beneath the surface. Your soulmate's habit of avoiding difficult choices would have continued. Your own wounds might have caused you to accept less clarity than you deserve. But the waiting has revealed what needed healing. You have been learning not to abandon yourself while loving someone. Your soulmate has been learning that love requires action, not only emotion. And their family has been learning that protecting someone does not mean controlling the path their heart chooses. This is why the conversation happened now. The secret could not be revealed earlier because the people involved were not ready to hear it. But something has changed. A family member who once remained silent has decided they will speak directly to your soulmate. They no longer want to watch them suffer in confusion. They no longer want fear to make the decision. They have seen your soulmate's restlessness. They have heard the sighs they try to hide. They have noticed how their energy changes after seeing something connected to you. They know your soulmate is standing at an emotional crossroads. And this person has decided to tell them the truth. They plan to say, "You are not protecting anyone by pretending you do not love them." Those words will strike deeply. Because your soulmate has told themselves that distance was maturity. They have convinced themselves that silence was safer. They have tried to believe that by doing nothing, they were preventing pain. But the family now sees that doing nothing has become its own kind of pain. They see how your soulmate carries regret. They see how often they wonder whether they have waited too long. They see the fear that you may one day close the door, not out of anger, but because you finally choose peace. And child, this possibility has begun to frighten them more than rejection. Your soulmate can imagine you living without them. They can imagine your heart healing. They can imagine someone else recognizing your value without hesitation. And when that thought enters their mind, something inside them breaks open. Not because they wish to possess you, but because they know they may have allowed fear to delay a love they were meant to protect. The family member who knows the secret has seen this panic in their eyes. That is why they are preparing to intervene. But there is still more. During the family conversation, one person revealed that they had once experienced a connection like this and lost it because they waited too long. They had chosen expectations over honesty. They had remained silent until the person they loved finally stopped waiting. For years, they carried that regret. They never told the family the whole story. Until your name was spoken. Your connection awakened their memory. They saw your soulmate repeating the same pattern, loving deeply, hesitating endlessly, believing there would always be more time. That person became emotional. They said, "Do not let them make the same mistake I made." The room changed again. Suddenly, this was no longer only about your soulmate's relationship. It became a moment of generational truth. A hidden regret from the past was now trying to prevent a new regret from being created. The person confessed that the greatest pain was not losing love. It was knowing they had lost it because they lacked courage when courage was required. Your soulmate does not know this yet. They do not know that someone in their own family sees their struggle so clearly because they once lived it. They do not know that this person is preparing to reveal a story they have hidden for years. And they do not know that the story ends with a warning connected directly to you. Child, this is where the energy becomes more intense. Because the family's secret was not simply that they knew your soulmate loved you. The deeper secret was that one of them had already made a decision about your place in the family. They had been watching you from a distance, studying the way you handled silence, disappointment, and emotional uncertainty. They had expected you to react with anger. They thought you might expose private matters, create conflict, or force your soulmate to choose through pressure. But you did not. You carried yourself with restraint. Even in pain, you protected the dignity of the connection. Even when you wanted answers, you did not destroy what love had built. This mattered more than you realized. The family member who once doubted you began to respect you. Then respect became admiration. And admiration became a quiet acceptance they were not yet ready to announce. They now believe you may be the person who can help your soulmate become emotionally whole, not because you will save them, but because your presence encourages truth. They believe you bring out the part of your soulmate that is most real. They see that with you, their loved one cannot hide behind the role they play for everyone else. Around others, your soulmate can appear strong, controlled, and unaffected. But with you, they are seen. And being seen is what they have always wanted, even when it frightened them. The family member has decided that if your soulmate chooses to move toward you, they will no longer stand in the way. In fact, they may support the connection. This is the secret that has just been spoken. But there is one person in the family who has not fully agreed. One person remained unusually quiet during the conversation. They heard every confession. They listened as others admitted they had misjudged you. They watched the resistance in the room begin to soften. Yet they did not reveal what they knew. Because this person is holding another piece of information. Something connected to the past. Something your soulmate once said during a moment of heartbreak. Something they believed no one would ever repeat. And when this final secret is revealed, it will force your soulmate to choose between continuing the silence and finally telling you everything. The family member looked around the room and almost spoke. Their lips parted. Your name was about to leave their mouth. But before they could reveal what your soulmate had once promised about you, the door opened. Your soulmate stepped back into the room. Every voice stopped. Every face changed. And in that sudden silence, your soulmate looked directly at the one person still holding the deepest secret. Then they asked the question no one was prepared to answer. What were you all saying about the person I love?